I'm Charlotte, I'm the Artistic Director of Vincent Dance Theatre, and this is Ruth.
I'm Ruth Hoverman, I'm the dramaturg. This is.
I'm Valerie, and I'm one of the performance advisors and dancers.
I'm Millie, and I'm a child performer.
I'm Maya, and I'm a child performer.
You don't have to sing.
I'm Alicia, and I'm a performer. I'm Nathan, I'm a performer as well.
And I'm Ellie, I'm the programmer for the theatre and commissioned the work. So I thought what I'd do is chair this discussion. It would be really nice to start off with. I feel like we've got our backs to these guys. Whole new installation piece going on here. It would be really nice. We were just having a chat after the show. It'd be really nice to hear some of your instant feedback to the work. Perhaps we could start off with the things you noticed, the things you liked, the things that caught your eye. Maybe you guys could start. The things that had meaning for you, maybe. Can I just say before we say that we weren't sorry to interrupt, but we weren't intending for the kids to be here, so can we be sensitive to the fact that they are here? Because this was a last minute decision because they really wanted to come and listen. So obviously, if the discussion goes a certain way, I'll ask them to leave. Sorry.
No, don't worry. So I'm in school to become a future educator. So working with kids was really powerful. I thought it was beautifully done, adding the kids in all of the diagonal running aspects. I thought that was really well done. And I think what resonated with me the most was the social media aspect and how kids are putting their entire lives on social media and not understanding the relationships that, are blooming from that. So I thought that was well done.
Great.
I actually had a question. I didn't have a statement to say as yet, but I wanted to ask the kids if you felt like by doing this piece and being involved in this piece, it made you feel any different about social media, and if it had a knock-on effect of how you look at your phone and how you interact with that.
Perhaps can we come back to that question in a minute, so that what I'd quite like to do is collect those things, that we'll come back to that. It's kind of staged through this process, but I think one of the things that really struck me was seeing kids on stage with adults in all different kinds of guises. So the power residing with the kids. So we saw particularly powerful females on stage, which we don't see very often, to say. So that really struck me. Any other?
Yeah, I'm a mum of kids of this age, and I found it immensely predatory and very tricky in parts because of that, and powerful. And the balloon dances were one of the funniest and most unpleasant things I've seen for a while. It was very that real tension between it being too much and it also being very funny.
I thought the soundscape was brilliantly done and how it pulled on my emotions, certainly. I have an 18-year-old daughter and I feel I've come through possibly some of the worst times through social media and come out the other end, and it's very haunting, and you just as a parent, I should say, have hoped that my daughter's not been touched through social media in a damaging way, but you never really know. You can have an open and honest relationship with your daughter, I have, and you don't actually know what's going on. So really haunting is the sound, particularly for me.
I found the bit with the balloons and stuff, it was funny and like so satirical, and then I found sort of the second half quite a lot darker. like with the guy who was talking to you, saying he's watching you, and the scene with the box, and I don't think I quite came out of the dark by the end.
No, we didn't.
I felt really kind of disturbed at the end, despite the sort of
That was our attempt at hope. And we achieved it, as usual, in my work. Yeah. Any other moments or thoughts or feelings that people had?
There was, if anything, like really resonated with me that boundary or that edge between innocence and naivety, and how quickly that can be misunderstood and sort of and experienced, and what's the consequence of that? What is the consequence of innocence? And that innocence then brings that naivety that potentially can be quite dangerous and worrying.
Maybe it'd be interesting to hear from the group a little bit about what the challenges of trying to make a piece of socio-political work is. Because we also I don't see very many dance companies, and even theatre companies going there, to be honest. So if you take it on the chin, say we're going to deal with something that's we all know exists in our society, but we don't really like to talk about it. How do you approach that?
With difficulty. It's been quite a tricky process, really, because just so that everyone feels secure, there's a really sort of strict safeguarding policy within the company that we're applying with the children that we're employing, because they're actually employed to do this work, they're not doing it voluntarily. So VDT has a very strong and robust safeguarding policy that is completely at odds with an artistic process that I would normally engage with. So there's been quite a lot of push-me-pull-y around, can they see this, can we ask them to do that? We worked for 6 weeks making it, and the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning was without the children, and then Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday was with the kids, so we had adult time to make some more adult material, and then kid time where it was blended. And there's a definite shift in atmosphere and approach during that shift towards the end of the week, because there were some things, I suppose, in that socio-political realm of the subjects that I wanted to look at that I didn't really want to add to the problem for these particular children. So I was unsure about how much they knew until we got to know them better, if you like. So knowing the subject matter and then inviting children to investigate the subject matter was really full of contradiction. I mean, we did actually, it was also quite absurd, because at times we'd go, right, get out of the room, put your earphones on, go in there. And I find that, like you were saying, Sophie, that's sort of slightly comical but also tragic at the same time. Because then, of course, it transpired that the older kids know much more than they let on. They know exactly what we're talking about, but from a safeguarding chief executive point of view, I'm not allowed to guide them into any subject matters that are me prompting them. But if I ask them a question they answer, for example, and I know from their answer that they know exactly what I'm talking about, then we're on safer ground. But it was really, really interesting and tricky to make that political and personal judgment about what was appropriate for these particular children. Nathan and Alyssa are young and they still don't listen and watch certain bits of the show. But at the same time, to try and answer your question, I didn't also want to sort of make monkeys out of the children. They need to know the context that they're in. They signed up with their parents' support to the context that they found themselves in. So we were very clear about that as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it starts, and I think it's time to ask your question again, because I think this is where it sits really well.
Yeah, no, I was just curious to know, with children it varies, but I know that nowadays it tends to be younger, that you guys have a relationship with media and Facebook and using your phones. Do you feel like you have a different relationship now with that, now that you've done the project?
Well, it definitely
Can you speak up a bit, guys, because we can't hear you.
well, it definitely made me realise, like,
all the more consequences of doing things online. Like I wasn't that aware of if you post things like that, this will happen afterwards. So I think I've definitely changed a bit how I was before.
I wasn't that, I didn't realise it happened so much on social media, and then since I've been doing this I realised so many people do it just to get popular sometimes. So that's a thing.
For me, a lot of the stuff I didn't realise it happened, but then when I sort of came through it and realised it did happen, didn't make much of an impact on my social media life because I never really did it anyway. But
Too busy playing Call of Duty.
Did I just make a disclosure?
What do your friends think about you being on this show?
So let's go backstage. Have you told your friends what you're doing?
I told my friends I was in a dance show.
Yeah.
Can
I just say the adults do the same?
That's interesting.
What have you told your mates that you're doing? Have you told them about the subject matter at all?
I just told them it's mature.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. What about you, Millie? Because Millie, you all do dancing and gymnastics, and particularly the older two parts.
The gymnastics is amazing, and the martial arts.
And actually, one of them is involved in the CAT scheme here at the place. So they're sort of they're budding dancers. Did you talk about the subject matter with your friends or not?
Well, I kind of said it was for 14 plus, but I didn't want to go into detail what we were doing.
Excellent. It's a bit like Leah in the last one. Yeah.
But why didn't you tell them? Did you feel embarrassed or was it taboo for you or what?
I'm 13, and to be perfectly honest, a lot of the people in my year wouldn't know what exploitation meant. So when they think sexual, they just think that I'm going to be raped, which sort of makes it more embarrassing than just posting pictures on social media.
Any other thoughts on that?
I was a bit unsure with telling my friends because they were a bit before I even started this, so I didn't really tell them about it and the subject matter and stuff.
I think it's also fair to say, without making any disclosures, that some children in the work have experienced some not very nice behaviour from friends, and so some of the stuff that's in here that the adults do has come from stories that these guys have told me, which I won't pin on anymore. But so they know the content of some of the things that we do, and we're taking those stories and doing it for them, and not asking them maybe to engage. It's a metaphor. A lot of it's metaphorical, obviously.
I think also we live in a fear culture. We're all part of affected by the system of even speaking out against sexism in a daily situation. How much of us see that, and do we always speak out? Do we say that? To be able to, as a young person, being involved in a show is taking a risk, is stepping out of their norm, is stepping out of that place where often we all have worries about being judged or what people will think, or how do we explain that, or how do we express that, how do I say the show I'm doing, maybe I won't be able to fully then explain the whole thing, and I'm left with that. So I think that
sort of easier to say you're in a dance show, really.
Yeah, it's hard to step outside sometimes of the constraints that we're all in, and to even to name some of this subject matter. You might be ridiculed, you might be this. I'm not surprised. It's not an easy subject to talk about, because in a way either it can be like, oh yeah, we know everything, we know that's happening, or it's a denial sometimes. I think the shows, some images it might be that, well, we know those images, but you're still left with, well, yes, and we know them, and.
Did you have a question?
And it was about like, I feel like I got the metaphor of dogs, you know, a lot of our behaviour is like we're sort of at odds with each other, like a lot of the behaviour is animal. I'm interested to know what the kids feel about the dogs and like what that means to you.
What do you think you're doing when you're being a dog? Or when you're a dog?
Like when we were kind of the owners to the adults being dogs, it kind of felt like they were out of control and we were kind of being a bit more like human and they were being a bit more animalistic. Like, and when we were the dogs, it just felt like we were kind of threatened by something and we just went all a bit into chaos.
We're also looking, aren't we, at like the relationship between children and parents. Sit down, eat your tea, come on, get out the house, we're late, So it sort of became a bit of a metaphor for that as well as a metaphor for men, actually, for the threat of the less nice things that men, and sometimes women, but mostly men do to children and to women. So for me it's pretty strong, but I think for these guys we're playing with, resistance to being parented, resistance to being told what to do all the time, barking back, and then we did a whole thing to be around your guard dogging. It's like you're guard dogging the space, you're guard dogging each other. So, you know, less of a poodle, more of an Alsatian kind of thing. Like, how do you find your fierceness? And I think what's brilliant about these guys is that they found physical fierceness in the piece that I'm still slightly gobsmacked by when I see it. You're amazing. But it's a big risk doing the dog thing. We had lots of conversations, didn't we, about, oh God, we just look stupid. Is it a metaphor too far? Can we carry it off? And actually, the more I watch it, as I'm now starting to watch it, I think you know what we're talking about, don't you? What do you think it is? Is it a threat? Is it the threat of something specific?
Yeah, definitely a threat. Like an edginess, like of chaos of not knowing quite who's safe, who's not safe. Responding like in an animalistic way, maybe you don't know that you're a threat.
Yeah.
You know? But then when faced with another dog, maybe you are.
Or a dog that's snarling at you.
Yeah.
The thought entered my head actually at one point. Because the one training the dogs to sit, I think, came after, your conversation about needing to tell adults, to protect adults, and also adults need to, look after them better and to give a better example. And it struck me that perhaps that was also a reference to the fact that adults actually needed to have some discipline. I mean, it was put a bit harshly with the dogs, but that in fact, I think there are possibly lack of discipline in the wrong way, lack of the right kind of discipline in some children's lives, and that is something that the adults, that whole game.
But also what's interesting about the digital age is that I think the parents in the room of these children, as well as other parents, might agree that you don't really know what your kid's up to a lot of the time. And so there's this big unknown that maybe in my day you were either in the woods or at home, or you were on the estate or at home, or you were watching the telly, but here you're in a different world in your own home. So you can't really monitor it. You can do what they do around 5 minutes, this, that and the other, but you don't really know where they're going imaginatively or in terms of adrenaline and aggression and what they're watching. And it's really well known that 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds are watching pornography, for example. We don't want to face that, but we know that from NSPCC reports and all the rest of it, that that's happening. Now we can either open our eyes to that and deal with it and confront it and talk about it, or we can bury our head in the sand and sort of think that that's not happening. But it's happening. And the interviews that I did that are part of the soundtrack, sadly, of the 10 or so young women that I interviewed, at least 3 of them had had really, really bad experiences, like sexual, aggressive
experiences, and that sort of maps the norms that we know about 1 in whatever it is, 1 in 5, 1 in 8, whatever the numbers are. So that was really kind of upsetting for me, that out of the number of people that I talked to and interviewed at length, they had had these experiences. And so I suppose for me, I wanted to kind of place that in the work amongst these metaphors. So these are real voices of young women that I've interviewed, and it's not good. It's not good news, guys. You know. So that's kind of, to go back to your question, that's why I wanted to make the piece, because I've been aware of that through my community work, if you like, for a very long time. And that's why there's some harsh images with Val as well, because I tried to kind of take some of the harder images that came out in those discussions with young people and place them in the adult bodies, so that they're part of the mix. Does that make sense?
I was just going to say about the recordings, how I found that was really moving, and also seeing these young girls on the stage as well at the same time.
Thanks, Ryan.
Was it kind of scared me, because it made me think it's kind of exactly what happened to them. That's the kind of idea I had.
Has it happened to them?
The three.
Yeah, I mean, we played a lot with the looking at the adult doing the thing that might happen to you, or looking at the adult playing out things that have been spoken of in rehearsal. Or I didn't really
wanted to ask you how you felt hearing these recordings.
They haven't heard them.
Have you? Okay.
They haven't heard all of them. So these guys haven't, you know. So the question is, how did you feel hearing some of the recordings? Not the one that we didn't know, but the others. Did it feel so old these days, Jesus Christ, or it works for us?
I thought, like, because I'd only just heard the rape one, I thought that was quite shocking. I didn't realise that could happen to either someone like my age or older.
Yeah, I was quite shocked at how aggressive it was and how it just happened to her and she didn't do anything.
Did it feel completely out of anything you'd heard happening to people close to you, or did it feel completely shocking, nothing you'd ever heard before, or was it familiar at all?
That might be a bit of a personal question. I'll answer that. It wasn't totally shocking to all the people in the room. So in playgrounds. Certainly the stuff of a lot of this rape has become part of the kind of language on buses. You know, I was on a bus in Brighton recently and it's like, yeah, we're going to rape tonight. Going out clubbing. I mean, have you experienced that kind of language around you? Yeah. So I think, you're a little
That's
bit
kind of also what shocked me as well, the fact that it was shocking, but it also hearing it wasn't that, didn't surprise me that much, that was happening.
I feel about the recordings, some of them, don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely awful and I don't get it, but I think from some of the recordings of the women that were speaking, it seems like, it portrays men in quite a bad way. I'm a boy and I'm growing up and I'm not a rapist, I'm not going to be a rapist. And some of them are we go into a room and the boys are all every time staring around and looking at each other. And some of them, I feel like that's only one point of view.
That's really true. What I want to say about the recording is that the women that I recorded are not perhaps of the same class and background as the people in the show. So for me it was really important that those voices were heard, because they don't go to dance classes, they don't come up to the place and do stuff, they are neat dropouts, not in employment or education, some of those girls. They have been treated quite badly, they've lived more between the ages of 13 and 15 than I would ever want anyone to live in terms of experience. And they come from perhaps a background that's much less advantaged than the kids here. So one of the things that I was trying to do was get, without making assumptions about these children's advantage or disadvantage, to get the voices of less advantaged, perhaps, children in the room. because in the work that I do, sort of in prisons or with young offenders or in the community with people that are not privileged, their stories are often worse, a lot worse, because they're not protected by their parents. So for me, that was important to get those voices in the space, and not just to be a nice sort of, with all due respect to the children in the room, privileged or middle class or well-educated voice. Does that make sense?
Picking up on the comment about the boys and men, the male imagery, I noticed that most of the time in the show, men were portrayed in predatory roles, apart from the 2 times when they were dressed up as women or girls. One case with Rob, and that's when they were more vulnerable. And then something about their masculinity was revealed, which wasn't in all the other. I mean, I nearly thought that the last image with Rob was the last image of the show.
Yeah. Maybe it should be.
But I wonder about how does anybody feel about how to address the vulnerability of even the predator.
That's the next show then. That's the next show.
No, I know.
I mean, genuinely, it's the next.
And I'm just, but in terms of this show, I know it's the next show, but also in terms of this show, because it's part of the story, that vulnerability, that.
Yeah, I suppose I got a bit hard-nosed. Well, we got a bit hard-nosed about it, didn't we? It's like, let's for once just tell a clear female story. Let's not.
You include it.
Yeah, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is, yeah, from a female, a young female, or even an adult female point of view, the threat is constant, and let's not pretend it isn't. And I suppose I got a bit hard-nosed with my feminist hat on, I don't want to get drawn into the male story in a way. So I think the men in this are entirely archetypal and cliched in a way, and stereotypical, and that's a really, as it was in Motherland, or that range, a kind of deliberate choice to say, I'm going to set the vulnerability of the children against a kind of really obvious masculinity. Because I can't do everything in an hour and a half, and also because I feel really strongly that young women are under threat, actually. I feel really strongly about that, and I'm really fucking furious about it, excuse my language. I'm so angry that women have to put up with this stuff. And it's men that are driving it. I'm sorry, but it is. And that's what I wanted to say in this. That I'm not going to compromise on that in this particular show. I really feel strongly about it. And you only have to look at Trump, who's about to become the American president, to see that it's all being, it's just, I mean, hopefully not, but it's being mirrored back at the highest level, and I'm sick of it, actually. So that's when I get a bit militant. I'm really angry about it, that it's still going on in 2016, and we're still dealing with this same old crap of men thinking that they can take advantage of young women in this way. Because they do, and everything, all the research that I've done keeps telling you that they're still doing it. Nothing is changing that. Obviously, we all know fantastic men and new men and feminist men, and thank God, but the general trend is not that. And that's what makes me very cross.
I really hear that, but I also feel that you mentioned a fear culture, and I think that we can get drawn into this feeling that it's all men, and so when there are 3 men in the show, and they're all being predatory, violent, negative, it feels like, whoa, it's never
Yeah,
like
but it's
that.
a provocation, isn't it? It's a device. It's a device.
Sure. But yeah, I sort of feel for you when you go like, I'm not going to be like that.
But that's the whole point, that I'm really proud of Nathan for just saying.
Yeah.
Because he's in the quagmire of what we've been dealing with, and bless him, he's able to say that. And good for him. And I hope you don't become a rapist. And I hope you do hold on to those politics, because it's brilliant.
Thank you all for your performance. It was fantastic. I've spoken to Charlotte already. One of the things that provoked me, I guess, and I think that it did touch on it, was the security aspect. Like, you see the what was the hologram's name, or that the police are using to track down pedophiles. I guess I'm wondering, like, these issues are really important, obviously, but I worry that it also is used, these issues, by states to create overarching laws to say that it's making children safe or pornography unavailable and things like that, and it turns into a much wider issue of things like state surveillance and rules that are used under the guise of child protection. So I wonder, like, with this digital world that we're living in, what should be, from anyone in the crowd who thinks that, like, some suggestions of how to deal with digital while also protecting human rights in general.
We had lots of discussion about, pornography in and of itself. I personally disagree with, because it's so loaded against women often, that's the mainstream, but we have had lots of discussion around, each to their own. If you want to use pornography, that's your choice and it's freely available. What am I trying to say? That
because I'm trying to say then policy kind of steps in, and we don't normally have those choices. We suddenly don't become a free society, and so I wonder where the restrictions.
Yeah, and we were trying really hard to say we're not anti-porn as such, although I personally am. That's not the message I hope in the show.
But I also think, just quickly coming back on that, I think that's an interesting point that you're making about is a response to kind of over surveillance, which perpetuates what's happening.
I could name a few different laws that this is actually happening, saying that it's for protect cyberbullying or protect whatever.
I suppose I think that one of the things that I think about the piece, or that Charlotte's trying to do about the piece, is to not have the answers.
No, I know that. Yeah. I'm just so I'm throwing it in.
I think that's quite important. That quite a lot of comments are about that idea about perhaps making a piece of work that's showing and isn't necessarily saying, I know what the answers are, but this is part of where we are. And I think that sometimes when there's a desire to balance everything, that what can get forgotten is the level of sexism and abuse, really, that we just absorb as normal. I mean, in our desire to try and be balanced, and I think that whilst, of course, having healthy relationships in our culture is the most important thing, to also acknowledge the imbalance is important part of that, and I think that can get ignored sometimes.
And how do we challenge that?
I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. If you'd like to carry on the conversation in the bar, do come and join us, because the company will be there. We'll be in the bar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.